The formal definition of conclave, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is a private meeting at which the discussions are kept secret. This term is also used for its religious definition from the same source as a meeting of cardinals at which the Pope is elected. However, the religious conclave is also a formal conclave, a private, hidden, controlled meeting in which the inner workings are kept secret, secure, and insular. Edward Berger's 2024 film Conclave focuses intensely on this concept. Adapted from the 2016 novel by Robert Harris, the movie follows a fictitious story about the death of a pope and the ensuing conclave to elect the new one. We are grounded into this world by Cardinal Lawrence, who has been selected to oversee and facilitate the conclave. Cardinals from around the world gather in the Vatican for it, and as the cardinals navigate alliances, rivalries, and personal conventions, unexpected revelations and moral dilemmas emerge, testing their faith and character. Like a lyrical poem, Conclave focuses on these cardinals, their convictions, their certainties, and their control. As Cardinal Lawrence gives a powerful homily to the start of the conclave, he warns about the sin of certainty, how it works to eliminate mystery, which eliminates faith.
Certainty is the great enemy of unity. Certainty is the deadly enemy of tolerance. Even Christ was not certain at the end. Dio mio, perché mi hai abbandonato, he cried out in his agony at the 9th hour on the cross. Our faith is a living thing precisely because it walks hand in hand with doubt. If there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no mystery, and therefore no need for faith.
When we also begin to see how the theme of certainty bleeds into the theme of control in Conclave, we can find it to be one of the most powerful films exploring faith ever produced. What exactly does Conclave want to say about faith, God, and his ways? Well, let's explore that. Welcome to Analysis with Alex, your online media studies and literature classroom. Here, we aim to reclaim the greatness and power of the stories we tell each other. If you are tired of the manufactured nihilism and schlock pushed on us, please consider subscribing to join the community we are building. Before we dive in, thank you so much for watching and listening. I will be spoiling Conclave throughout this video, so I recommend that you save this video, watch the movie, and then come back. As I mentioned before, the viewer is invited to view Conclave through the lens of certainty as a sin via Cardinal Lawrence's sermon. It's framed to be a monumental monologue, the sound design completely pulled back to the point where you could hear a pin drop. There are sharp cuts to each cardinal's face, taking in his words, some offended, some moved. So let's start our analysis by understanding Conclave's exploration of the sin of certainty. Conclave's visual style is deliberately restrained, with muted colors, shadowy interiors, and tight framing within the Vatican's cloistered walls. This creates a sense of claustrophobia, mirroring the psychological and spiritual confinement of the cardinals as they grapple with their doubts and convictions. The camera often lingers on faces, capturing subtle expressions of uncertainty, hesitation, and resolve, which, absent of dialogue, gives us the internal struggles of characters who are expected to embody unwavering faith. Filmmaking elements such as lighting and sound design further underscore this theme. That interplay of light and shadow evokes the tension between divine truth and human fallibility, while the sparse use of music amplifies the weight of silence, a space where doubt and reflection thrive. That is, until the music erupts at times of revelation, such as when Lawrence begins to uncover the documents the previous pope left behind. The narrative itself is structured around revelations that destabilize the cardinals' certainties, forcing them to confront their imperfections and the complexities of their roles as spiritual leaders. Each twist in the story peels back layers of dogma and religiousness, revealing the fragility of human judgment. Cardinal Lawrence embodies this theme the best as he both navigates the politically charged process of papal selection and the struggles to hear God during this time through prayer. His initial confidence in understanding the mechanics of Vatican politics gradually crumbles as revelations force him to confront his own limitations, which further feed into his struggles with prayer. The film suggests that Lawrence's journey from certainty to more uncertainty mirrors a spiritual awakening, one that paradoxically brings him closer to divine truth through the acknowledgement of human limitations. What begins as a seemingly straightforward ecclesiastical procedure transforms into a labyrinth of revelation, with each new disclosure undermining previously held certainties. This pattern serves as the film's thesis of sorts, that certainty, particularly institutional certainty, functions as a barrier to genuine spiritual connection. I would argue that Conclave's meaning, at least one of its central ideas, seems to be that certainty, when pursued as an absolute, can become a sin. It's a form of pride that distances us from the humility required to connect with the divine truly. By presenting characters like Bellini and Tremblay, who cling to their certainties only to have them shattered, Conclave suggests that faith is not about having all the answers, but about embracing mystery and doubt as an essential aspect of the human experience. In this way, the film invites us viewers to see uncertainty not as a weakness, but as a pathway to a deeper, more authentic relationship with God. By seeing how Conclave visually and narratively frames certainty as a sin, we can see how it starts to feed into other characters' desires for control, their sense of power, and their dangerous pride. The film establishes its visual critique through spatial dynamics and camera movement. For example, when Cardinal Bellini first presents his certainty about the proper direction of the church, Berger frames him in low-angle shots that emphasize his commanding presence. The camera remains static and controlled during these moments, mirroring Bellini's rather rigid certainty, even if many of us might agree with him. This visual language connects his psychological certainty with his desire for institutional control. Even if he claims he doesn't want it, the film is framing him in a manner that we can tell he does. As the narrative progresses, this visual pattern extends to other characters displaying similar traits. Cardinal Tedesco appears repeatedly in similar composed shots, the camera gradually tightening its frame around him as his certainty hardens. This visual composition creates a sense of constriction that paradoxically accompanies certainty, suggesting that the more certain these characters become, the more trapped they are within their limited perspectives. As we've alluded to, the narrative structure builds a clear progression from certainty through control and power to pride. Cardinal Tremblay demonstrates this arc most explicitly. In earlier Conclave scenes, his certainty manifests as a measured confidence, but as voting rounds progress, the character transforms. His certainty becomes a justification for manipulative control over other cardinals' votes, which then feeds his sense of power within the Conclave dynamics. A pivotal scene occurs when Tremblay confidently tells Lawrence that the Holy Spirit has made his preference clear. The lighting design in this moment is particularly revealing. Harsh overhead lighting creates sharp shadows on Tremblay's face, visually dividing it and suggesting the spiritual division his pride has created. The scene demonstrates how certainty has completed its transformation into pride, with Tremblay now presuming to speak with absolute confidence about divine will. The film's sound design contributes significantly to its ideas about certainty and pride. When Cardinal Lawrence begins to question his own certainties, the film introduces subtle sound bridges between scenes. Ambient sounds from one scene bleed into the next, creating auditory uncertainty that mirrors Lawrence's developing interior state. By contrast, scenes featuring characters locked in their certainties, particularly someone like Tedesco, maintain clear, distinct sound separation between sequences. This oral technique communicates that certainty creates false boundaries and separations, both between moments and metaphorically between individuals and truth. The sound design subtly argues that certainty functions as a form of spiritual noise that drowns out more authentic connections to divine guidance. I think a really powerful scene that uses this, as well as having one of the few non-linear moments, when Edmune asks Lawrence to pray with him after his previous scandal has been exposed. Through dramatic irony, something the audience knows that the characters don't, we know that Lawrence is uncertain about his prayer life and faith in this moment, but as he steps in to share truth with Edmune, sharing that he believes him to be a good and righteous man despite his shortcomings that will now prohibit him from becoming pope. As the barriers of certainty and control are torn down, the film's sound and editing suggests that Lawrence's care for his fellow man and the desire to pray together hold more truth and beauty than even the characters themselves can understand at the time. It remains probably one of my favorite scenes, especially in our culture of cancellation and self-righteousness. It strives to use all its narrative and filmmaking ability to show how powerful forgiveness, support, prayer, and love can be.
So I still have hope.
No. There is no hope. After such a public scene, there will be rumours, and you know what the Curia is like. Nothing terrifies our colleagues more than the thought of yet more sexual scandals. I am more sorry than I can say. You will never be Pope. You must begin again. But you are a good man. I know you to be a good man, and you will find a way to atone.
Perhaps another powerful visual embodiment of the film's ideas occurs in the Sistine Chapel voting scenes. Berger repeatedly frames characters against Michelangelo's creation of Adam and the Last Judgment murals, creating visual juxtaposition that comments on their spiritual states. Characters displaying greater certainty and pride are often positioned beneath the damned souls in Last Judgment, while Lawrence's journey toward uncertainty increasingly places him beneath the reaching figures of God and Adam, symbolizing a narrowing of spiritual distance. The chapel's vertical space becomes a visual metaphor for spiritual distance, with high-angle shots during moments of humility and low-angle shots during expressions of certainty and pride. This vertical language creates a consistent visual trick that pride, rooted in uncertainty, distances one from divine connection, while humility, rooted in uncertainty, brings one closer. The film's resolution powerfully delivers its prescriptive message about certainty, control, and pride through Cardinal Lawrence's total transformative journey. When Lawrence finally confronts the truth about Cardinal Benizzi, that he is intersex and was assigned male at birth but is biologically a woman, his entire framework of certainty collapses even further. It pushes us into even more uncertain territory, as Benizzi doesn't go along with the certainty that he could experience in embracing being trans and transitioning, as he shares, "I am who God made me."
So you are still
I am what God made me. And perhaps it is my difference that would make me more useful. I think again of your sermon. I know what it is to exist between the world's certainties.
This revelatory moment is filmed with particular attention to Lawrence's shifting perspective. The camera work transitions from the rigid, structured compositions that dominated earlier scenes to more fluid, handheld movements that mirror his internal destabilization. As Benizzi reveals the truth to Lawrence, the lighting design shifts dramatically. Harsh overhead lighting gives way to softer, more diffused illumination that symbolically represents the dissolution of false boundaries between doctrinal certainty and human reality. Most significantly, when Lawrence chooses to honor Benizzi's election despite the potentially catastrophic theological implications for church doctrine, the visual language undergoes its most profound transformation. The tight, claustrophobic framing that characterized the Conclave's earlier voting scenes expands into compositions with ample negative space. This visual breathing room metaphorically represents the spiritual openness that accompanies Lawrence's rejection of certainty. The final sequence, where Lawrence announces Benizzi's election as Pope, employs a striking combination of intimate close-ups and expansive wide shots that position Lawrence as simultaneously humbled yet somehow liberated. The white smoke billowing above St. Peter's Square becomes a visual manifestation of spiritual transformation we see in Lawrence. The certainty that once constricted, has now dissipated into something more mysterious and transcendent. I love that this scene also happens as Lawrence takes care of a simple turtle. Again, that theme of just caring and loving on something, pushing him closer to divine truth. I think we could even argue that there's another sense of uncertainty that's pushing Lawrence to even more spiritual freedom and truth here. The visual language and sound design employ a lot of the same cues we have seen for other revelatory moments in the film, but we don't fully know what Lawrence is thinking as we look down on him from an aerial shot. I think this is a really clever way that Berger gets us, the viewers, to linger in uncertainty, to make us decide what exactly we are waiting in. Through this conclusion, Conclave makes its most profound statement about the relationship between certainty and sin by embracing the profound uncertainty represented by Benizzi's election, a reality that fundamentally challenges his previous theological certainties, Lawrence paradoxically comes closest to authentic spiritual truth. The film suggests that truth faith emerges not from rigid adherence to doctrinal certainties, but from the willingness to embrace mystery and human complexity, even when they challenge our most fundamental assumptions. This final transformation completes the film's exploration that certainty, when calcified into control and pride, becomes not a pathway to God, but a barrier, that the willingness to abandon such certainty in favor of compassionate uncertainty represents the truest expression of spiritual authenticity. Of course, it's perhaps put best in the Bible itself, as it simply states in Proverbs, quote, "Trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like so that others that might like it can find it. If you didn't like it, you can also let me know that. Anything helps me out. I find Conclave to be a pretty deeply layered movie. There's a lot of scenes and aspects that even feed into what we talked about here that I didn't get to talk about. I would really love to know what you thought about the movie. Do you kind of agree with my takeaway here? Or did you get something completely different from it? Let's start a conversation in the comments below. I would love to see what people have to say about it. If you like video essays like this, you might consider seeing what else I have on the channel. If you also like long form book reviews, I have plenty of that on the channel. If you really like what I'm doing here, please subscribe. That is the best way that you can support me right now. Again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in our next exploration.